Hi, everybody. We are live with Vipul today. He's an amazing guy. I think many of you have come across his LinkedIn post and his empowered coder that he runs. I think it's quite a while that you have run now, probably over a year now, right?
No, it will be a year this July.
Oh, yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. So it's pretty close. So he has been doing some amazing work on the distributed system side, scalable system side, especially on systems, not exactly on the system design that we hear about in the interviews, but actual systems like going deep into Rust and contributing to a lot of open source. So this will be a very exciting podcast that we'll have. We'll cover a lot of things, touch down on how he has navigated his career all these years and how he has become to stay abreast of the latest technologies in the field of distributed systems, and probably some fun chats as well. So, welcome, Vipul, and thanks for joining early morning on a
Yeah,
Monday.
no,
So,
yeah,
yeah, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit?
sure. So I am Vipul Vaibhav. I am right now in Pune, and I have worked with. Um, I worked mostly around distributed systems from the start of my career, and then, uh, like let's say, since the past 3 years, I would say I have decided to work more with distributed systems, core distributed systems. So that's what I have been doing. I have worked with two database companies where I got the opportunity, to work with the team where we were designing the database from scratch.
Okay.
So there is this amazing company, Macrometa and Space and Time. So both
Yeah.
these companies are database companies, and I got an opportunity to work with them. So there I learned a lot about you know uh, writing good and performant code, doing design of databases from
Mm-hmm.
scratch, things like that. So that was really nice. And yes, I was recently working with Resonate, which is an amazing team. There, we were working on distributed async await. But now, for some reason, I thought that I there are some more things which are interesting me, uh, and I wanted to get deeper into it. So I have decided to spend next couple of months purely in open source contributions.
Okay, that's great. So yeah, that brings me to some other thought. So like I was having a glance at your LinkedIn profile, and probably LinkedIn was the way that I could discover you, and probably you thought you would reach a larger audience, and I guess that is working. So the unusual thing that I thought or got insight from the first time was your degree. So many of the people who are working as software engineers have generally computer science degrees or other engineering degrees, but Vipul, to be very exact, he had a degree in mathematics. So why don't you tell about how you decided to be in mathematics? Was it chance or choice, and how did it leverage out to be?
So, uh, to be honest, from the start, from the young age, I was not that great in mathematics. Mathematics is something which and that is why I think a lot of us um, are devoid from the beauty of mathematics because
Yeah.
of the poor school education. Anyways, so but I got like I said, like everybody, I worked hard. Worked hard means simply learning all the solutions in 10th and 12th, basically, and then you get good marks.
Right.
So after that, I wanted to get into in 11th and 12th. I got an amazing math teacher, and um, I really started liking the subject, but I never thought pursuing it properly. Then I got an opportunity. Then I did not get an opportunity to write any engineering exams, to be honest, because of some reasons. So I had decent marks in 12th, and then this was a college which was taking admissions. So I got in Ferguson College in Pune, which is a nice college. So from there, since I got in by luck, it was not a informed decision. Then I started loving mathematics because what math, the type of math we learned in school or college, by that I mean engineering college, I am presuming, is not what real math is about. So, or higher education in math is about. So yeah, now I really really like the subject.
Great. Awesome. So I think that must have given you some directions of what you should do next or later, because you said you loved mathematics after that, and then
Yeah.
probably you figured something out. That's great.
Yeah, so I am. It's not a promotion, but I am working on a book, which is about mathematical thinking for programmers.
Oh, that's
There,
great.
yeah. So there, I when I was researching about it, and I found that Leslie Lamport, who is a a famous person in distributed
Yeah.
systems world, legend,
Yeah.
and many other people, be it Dijkstra, the algorithms person, like not just that, he has obviously many more contributions. Um, Alan Turing, um, I mean, most of the folks like this who have made similar contribution in computer science are actually not engineers. Everybody's has a theoretical math background, so that actually kept me motivated that you may do well even without a engineering degree. So because of math, I believe understanding fundamentals of computer science is easier, but
Hmm.
the harder part is if someone wants to pursue this route, engineering gets you closer to the applied side of computer science, and
Right.
like building business solutions and things like that. And it is harder for a math person to understand things like performance and those stuff. And that's why I kind of like Rust, because it allows me to write in abstractions and gives me the type of performance I aspire for. So yeah, that's that. It But distributed systems is mostly can be mostly understood if you have got good understanding of formal methods, for example.
Right.
And understanding those things are easier if you have a math background as compared to an engineering background. I mean, like another hypothesis, but yeah, if you can, that is the benefit you will get. But then there are benefits you get while pursuing engineering as well.
Awesome. So if you're talking in this education, so there was a short stint of you studying in Liverpool, John Moore's University, and I think you dropped out of that for certain reasons. So, like, why don't you tell what was the decision? How did you get in? What was the motivation and all stuff in short?
Yeah. So I think I am not very um, I'm not a fan of higher education in general, especially I mean no complaints to the university. I was trying to pursue a remote program,
Hmm.
and then I was not getting enough opportunity to do brainstorming with professors, for example, or those things which I thought will happen if you pursue higher
Yeah.
education. So and then I was doing decent in my career anyways, so I just thought that let's do better things.
So how did you decide Liverpool? Like, is there some connections you found out,
Yeah, yeah.
or?
So basically, it there was this at that time. This upgrad had a new offering where
Oh.
they connected us with that university. So that's why I'm saying that it was not Liverpool. Maybe it was because of some other reasons. But yeah, I mean, I did not get, and I could have pursued that and got a degree, and that might have made my profile even better since I am just a bachelor's in mathematics. But yeah, I thought it is that was not what I wanted.
Hmm.
Just another degree. So yeah, I dropped out because of that.
Okay, great. So I think we have had a little bit of introduction on your study side. So let's move a little bit to a career side. So there are a couple of interesting things that you have mentioned in your LinkedIn profile. One of them was like you started loving, or you still love working in very small companies. Especially
Yeah,
you mentioned 1 to 10 team size,
yeah.
and so I want to talk about how do you feel that? Why do you think that working in a smaller company helped you navigate your career?
Yeah. So that is something which I'm actually contemplating right now. So I am like being honest in this podcast.
Okay.
Uh, but before this, yes, I have worked with many small teams and small companies. Um, for example, like Space and Time when we started was also very small. Small now it has grown a lot. and um, resonate just four people including me. So yeah, so working in small company was a decision uh, which I wanted to pursue initially, basically because I wanted to get a deeper understanding of two things. One, how management and the running of a company
Mm-hmm.
happens, and also how key technical decisions are made. So these were like two primary reasons why I wanted to work in a very very small team. Now, that's the pro to it. The con to it is that the there is there is a lot of ambiguity in that team, because everybody is figuring out 1 to 10 means, mostly it is seed round or trying to raise Series A.
Right.
It's that early, so it has got its own I mean drawbacks. But yes, initially I thought, and it has helped me actually. I made some really good connections with people. For example, Macrometa is really big now.
Yeah.
Um, Resonate will be big, I know.
Yes. Definitely.
So because of that, I have good connections. But yes, it is um, the con. Another con is that you may not be able to do something which is a very long term project,
Okay.
working in these companies. Like, that's my assumption again. um, for example, if let's say you're in Microsoft and you're working
Mm-hmm.
on something which requires 4 or 5 years of, let's say, deep work to get that completed, or any bigger company, so that kind of projects may not you may not be able to work on them, because obviously how the company dynamic is, we have people raise money, they want to be survive first, right?
Yeah.
So now I am looking for those kind of projects.
Okay.
That doesn't mean that I may end up taking another smaller company, but yes, right now I'm trying to work on a project with a long term focus, and I want to learn that aspect as well, like how project management works, and
Mm-hmm.
all those things, because a long term project requires a different kind of thinking and planning, which a smaller company does not require.
Yeah.
We just decided this is what we want,
Definitely.
and we want to get there fast. That's all.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's great. So, talking about your career, I think you started after your maths degree, of course. You started as a data scientist somewhere, and then started working with data engineer, and then eventually graduated into being a performance or distributed systems engineer, right? So, was that a conscious decision, or was that uh, the normal companies that you are getting hired navigated? So, how did you manage
Um,
that?
yeah, so I did not start as a data scientist. I started as a systems programmer,
Okay.
and I worked there for 6 7 months, and then I moved to another company, Velocio. There I worked for 1.5 year as a software engineer. Okay, but because of this math, and it was like pre Transformers era when I
Yeah.
decided to move into AI. So that time it was purely interest. I wanted to explore that, the field of AI. Now when I went there, it is so that's what I'm saying, that these are some, like, now when I look back, I realize that um, there are easier way to gain these knowledge. If you get into good graduating engineering degree, maybe,
Hmm.
then you might not need to do all those things which I did. um, so I went to an AI company. I joined as a data scientist. There I realized I also got a chance to lead a team. There was some hard problems we were trying to solve.
Great.
um, and then I got promoted as a senior data scientist. Now from there, I realized we had to put our models to inference, right?
Okay.
And at that time, inference, the whole tech around inference was very early,
Yeah.
because ChatGPT and everything was not there, so nobody really knew how to deploy a model,
Right.
um, especially on a edge device,
Yeah.
right? So at that got me interested again, that I wanted to get closer to engineering, and I realized that I want to work somewhere around performance, distributed system, and things like that, where uh, I am thinking about math in at a higher level,
Hmm.
but I am also working closer with the hardware. So that is the area which I wanted to work. So um first I thought that getting into big data tools will be a good opportunity. So I
Mm-hmm.
again went back to Veloshore, where I worked as a data engineer, and there, working as a data engineer, um, I got another interest that why what won't it be cool if I started developing these big data tools. So
Okay.
then I moved to the distributed systems core.
Awesome. So, continuing that, like, how do you think the market for data engineer is like? Because most people are looking that data engineering is a viable career option now, considering all of the companies that we are working with are some way or in the other ingesting huge amounts of data, processing huge amounts of data, and some way or the other AI comes in between. So, how do you think data engineer is growing day by day?
Well, I am not too someone who is not too much fascinated with the modern AI. So I think that data engineer uh, has still got a lot of future. The
Mm-hmm.
primary reason is the first role of any company thinking about data is how do you get data into a level where it can from where it can be taken into training, or we can extract some insights out of that.
Yeah.
So that is still a hard problem, and it is getting harder because the data generating sources are increasing, right? However, the life of data engineer has become little easier because the tools are matured.
Yeah.
For example, we have got 5tran, if I'm not wrong, it has been long. Um DBT, these kind of tools, which allow you to do all the ETL, ELT type of jobs easier. Um, so I won't say it is something which is technically harder,
Mm-hmm.
a hard job. However, on the design side, on the understanding which type of data, how do you transform it, how do you like ensure the encryption in flight and at rest. There are multiple these kind of components which cannot be automated, and these are the places where data engineers really shine because they truly understand that what is the cost of, for example, running a Flink job on AWS KDA versus
Yeah.
in-house. So not the tools per se, expertise on the tools, but how everything works in synchrony. So that is where I believe data engineers will shine a lot.
So you're saying somewhere around the data engine getting more niche and niche, right? Like people are
Yeah, I
working on
think so.
specific problem statements instead of like, okay, we just have to transform this data into some
Yes.
other form. So I think, yeah, there's a lot of companies sparking around that, like Databricks, Snowflake.
Yeah.
They're adding a lot of other possibilities in that space. So yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's.
absolutely. So, for example, let's say your company has Snowflake, okay,
Mhm.
and now you want to expand to Europe, for example. So, or you want to expand out of Europe, let's say.
Okay.
So, for example, your data was in Europe. Now you want to, what will you do? Will you take the data from Europe, and which servers you will run on Snowflake? It should be there in Europe because you want to be GDPR compliant, things like that. And how will the data security happen? What if somebody requests you to delete all their data, the clause which is there in GDPR? So how will you support that? um, the AWS or any cloud service, for example, we often kind of forget that um, there is the data ingress and egress cost.
Yeah.
So how will you manage that? So all these things are something which are actually harder problems to solve and to manage. So I think data engineers who are really good in all these areas, apart from being obviously good at the tools, are really valuable.
Okay. Great. I think that is an amazing career right now. I guess
Yeah, yeah.
everyone is switching. So yeah, some of my friends who were like switching companies, they were like, data engineering is something that every company will have in one form or the
Yes.
other. So even if you're coming from a broader aspect like software engineering, so switching into data engineering makes things not much different because you'll have enough
Yes.
roles in there. So
Yeah, yeah.
cool.
And that is why I was able to switch from data engineer to software engineering
Yeah.
easily because it is not that different,
Yeah.
right? And there was one more point which I wanted to mention about data engineering. Yes, so I had written a post long time back about building a data team. So there, since you mentioned, right, every company will have a data engineer. So there also I had written a few years ago that um, the first hire in a data team should not be a data scientist. It should be a
Yeah.
data engineer, because you can train a data engineer to do little bit of analytics, because there are multiple tools which exist, obviously the basic levels,
Mm-hmm.
and little bit of data science, because multiple tools support small mlm, things like that. So at least if you're starting from scratch, hire a a data engineer who is passionate about these areas,
Yeah.
and getting your job done. And then when you are at a level where the data pipelines are set, you are happy with the basic modeling, basic analysis from
Mm-hmm.
that enthusiastic data engineer, then that is the time where you actually hire scientists and analysts, because uh, they will also have something to work with.
Yeah. And also the data scientists will need huge amount of data to train their
Yeah.
models. So if you hire it from day one, then probably they'll be sitting idle. And
Yes.
they'll be like, yeah, I don't have anything because we don't have data. So okay, great insight. Okay, let's come to the most important point. So I think most of you guys who are watching this podcast will know Vipul from his famous cohort based course that he offers, and it's an amazing course on that. So it's a empowered coder.
Is it that famous? I don't think so.
Yeah, I think I come across it very often. I think it's taking up, at least in the tech community wise, or at least in the space, in the
Hmm.
people I follow. So I think it's very popular. um, so I want you to talk about it, like what was the motivation, how did you start it, and what are the challenges that you face on that.
Yeah. So, uh, so actually, cohort-based courses are something which are in the gray area, to be honest. And I always, before announcing any cohort, I always have this thought that should I do the next cohort or not? Because wherever I do it, someplace else, some controversy happens about see cohort-based courses, and then I feel like that, hey, I don't want to be part of this, because I do this for fun. Now, so why I started doing this? It was primarily because uh, I I love teaching from very early ages, and I
Mhm.
wanted to offer something which I thought was missing in the space. So there are tens of cohort-based courses for beginners, where you can learn algorithm, data structure, some stack, right? Which I think, okay, let's not comment about that, but I believe I wanted to offer more value, where truly being in a community helps. The person who wants to take up the course does not have this much time to explore,
Mhm.
because somebody who in college has time to explore. At least I had time when I was in college. um, so what can we offer to these person, and something which also helps me pick up new things every time. So every cohort has a new topic, because I am learning something new, and I pick that up in the cohort, because that helps me solidify my concepts.
Yeah.
So that was the initial motivation, that let's bring something for experienced folks. Let's bring something which is non which will never have thousands of people in one cohort, because
Yeah.
I cannot find thousands of people who want to learn um, distributed systems with the tag in the start that this cohort will not give you any job directly, because it's hard to find these kind of jobs, right?
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
I do not claim that you take my cohort and you will get a better job. You come here purely for learning, and even then, for first 2 weeks, I decided that there will be. So I say that we have a weekend cohort, but we do a lot of weekday sessions as well.
Oh, nice.
Paper reading, exploring some code bases, things like that. So for the after the first 2 weeks, there is full refund. So there are people, like every cohort has got 2 3 folks at least, who ask for refund after joining the cohort, because they feel that the interests don't align, right?
Okay.
And the third thing is, this cohort is not a spoon feeding cohort. So I on weekends we talk about the topics mentioned in the syllabus, and then I give them papers to read. We do paper reading sessions where you have to ask me questions, right? So it is that type of cohort where you can learn something, and there has been amazing results. So there was somebody who worked with a famous person in TLA plus ecosystem.
Yeah.
And that person told me that he was even though he was working with in close proximity to that person in that team, but he was still scared to pick up TLA plus and read the spec. And after the cohort he was able to read that, because we go through the raft specification of TLA
Yeah.
plus line by line. So I think these are the things which I wanted to offer, wanted to make tougher topics approachable. And this is the space where I wanted to add value. And a very small cohort I do, uh, 30 people, 35 people at max, so it's that small. um, and yes, it is primarily because I really enjoy, I wanted to take up the take one level up in the existing offerings of cohort based courses which were there, and
Hmm.
serve to those who do not require job immediately, because I don't think I think it's very hard to of guarantee a job. But I say, see, on the first day that hey, this cohort will not give you job directly, because the jobs like this are harder to find. But if you
Hmm.
are but whatever you will learn will definitely help you in your job.
Great. I think you mentioned a couple of points regarding cohort-based courses and their infamousness, right? So I think when you talk about that, it's kind of a pyramid. So at the bottom of pyramid, they're like basic data structure courses, which kind of everyone promotes, and the whole reason or the sole reason is probably to get a fang job. So and
Yes.
people are kind of getting into it because everyone wants to get into a fang job, and just because they want to get in. So as we grow or go up the pyramid, where we work in more niche areas, where
Mhm.
actually people should work for interesting harder problems. So I think that space is
Yes.
uh, not that occupied, or I would
Yes,
say.
it's not.
So that's where the knowledge gap is. And I think the sole purpose of you mentioning that it's for learning purposes and not for career or job
Mhm.
directly is a very good point. And you offer 2 weeks refund in the first place,
Yeah.
gives people an option to at least explore for 2 weeks if that is working for them, that is not working for them, and they can take a call on that.
Yeah,
That's
and I
amazing.
can like guarantee that anybody who has asked for a refund has got a full refund. And after that, I ask that, hey, what went wrong? Like, why did you decide to leave? But first, I refund, and then we talk.
Yeah, that's an amazing. I think, yeah, people were probably tense that probably he might or might not refund. So once you
Yeah,
give the money back, then people are happy,
exactly.
and then they will be honest about their approach. So did you find anything what makes these people ask for refund other than the
Yeah,
like?
so mostly it is because a lot of, so I have written it on the website already that we at least have 2 years of
2 years
experience
experience? Yeah.
before joining. But there are people who are excited and they join, and then they realize that a lot of things are missing in the discussion. For example, let's say if I say something like, so what are the file formats we are talking about? Parquet, Arrow, things like that. So when I talk about this, I assume that if you already know these for file formats, or you can go and you can read about it. Like, I don't
Yeah.
need to start from the basics that this is Parquet, this is where it is used, right? So that is why I look for experience. But there
Mhm.
have been people who like just after the college first job, they have completed the cohort with a lot of effort, a lot
Mhm.
of questions and doubts. I always answer all the questions, but it is just that some people feel overwhelmed. So, for example, the type of content we cover, I'll tell you. We start with the basics of concurrency,
Yeah.
where we say that, hey, locks are the way to do concurrency, but we will not be doing locks. We'll be doing something which is more performant. So, we straight away get into non blocking data structures. Then, in the previous session, we talked about GPU internals, how exactly GPU works, how it is different from CPU, how the
Mhm.
task scheduling happens on CPU versus GPU. So, right? I'm not saying these things are something which requires you to have a smarter brain. It
Yeah.
just you requires you to have some exposure where you can understand. Hey, these are the things which I am using myself and I am using at my job, but I don't know it yet, right?
Yeah.
So mostly those people have dropped off. Some people couldn't continue every weekend. They got transfer, or they wanted to relocate, change job in between, so they
Mhm.
asked for refund. And there just has been one person who said, who was actually a PhD in computer science. He joined and he
Oh,
said that the cohort is not of his level. So obviously, I was happy to refund him.
okay, great. I think you also mentioned one interesting point of not spoon feeding as well, right? Because everyone in this today's world wants some kind of shortcut to learn this. Okay, I want just 15 minutes and insight into whole how Kubernetes work. Or so I experienced this. I was not reading a lot of research papers, but I was reading blogs. But once you read blogs, you'll realize that they're ca- they're like very shallow. They're just mentioning some top level details, and you don't understand like how exactly they implemented it. So it was a very interesting paper. So I read this memcached paper from Facebook, and it was like one paper of like 8 to 10 pages, but I think it took like more than 10 hours for me to like completely digest the whole thing.
Mm,
And the amount of information I had, it was I was so happy at the end that okay, I didn't know anything, and at least I know some terms. If someone will coin a term from this
mm.
paper, then probably I'll tell that. So I think that attitude of resiliency to read through difficult thing,
Yes.
at least approach, like a lot of people say, oh, it's a 10-page long document, I probably don't have the time, or even if
Mm,
have time, I'll not be able to understand anything. So I
mm.
think people or the developers who are starting out needs to build this resiliency to
Yeah,
get.
and sorry to cut you out, but I am proud to say this that I get a lot of messages after the cohort that hey, if nothing, we got a habit of reading papers. We are not scared of reading papers because so there is one session which I do before the cohort starts. That is how do you read a research paper. So that is
Hmm.
the first session, the first thing which we talk about, and then during the cohort a lot. So it is not that everybody gets it. I am yeah, like being really honest in a cohort you cannot have 100% result on everybody.
Yeah, of course.
There are varying degrees of result, but yes, a lot of, yes, especially a lot of younger folks
Hmm.
who have just joined 2 3 4 years of experience, they when they tell that now we got into the habit of reading research papers, that is a good sign for me, because then they will keep this habit for their remaining careers, right? And obviously they'll tell about this to other people as well. So it's something good which happens because of this call.
So is that video public, like how do you read research papers?
No, I mean it's not public, but it is something which I have plagiarized from. I also mentioned it in the session that I have taken it from. There is a paper about how do you read a research paper from London
Oh,
School of Economics and also MIT, if I'm not wrong. So
oh,
I my content is from there.
okay, I'll definitely check it out. I think yeah, that's a very important skill in like the world of AI, when left, right, center we are having research papers published.
Yes.
So awesome. And okay, so let's shift a little bit towards your YouTube journey. And when did you start learning in public, and what are the advantages, and can you just talk about that?
Yeah. So YouTube, I started because I wanted to talk to interesting people,
Okay,
right?
like me.
Uh, and that is why I started doing the podcast. I did 20 almost 30 episodes.
Okay.
I got a chance to speak to 30 amazing people. Um, but learning in public was really good initially, but the problem is learning in public requires you to just saying that hey, I'm reading this book, and it is in the area where it almost becomes like signaling,
Yeah.
right? That hey, I'm reading this book. For example, this book is on my desk, and I have not come gone after chapter 4 in this book, to be honest. But if I say that hey, if I can just do a post, right? Read chapter 4. So what good does that bring? So now I realize that it is great to do learning in public um in the initial years when you can actually build side projects, right?
Yeah.
Once you get to a level where where you are doing things just for exploring, I think it not everybody will understand what you are doing. So it there is more value if you can write detailed blogs rather than getting on YouTube or Twitter. So that is or you contribute to open source. So my primary objective is that this year that I will whatever learning I am doing, I'll try
Mm-hmm.
to apply it in some open source project, and maybe that I can share on Facebook, sorry, Facebook,
LinkedIn.
Twitter and YouTube that this is what I did, and this that can be a good way to do learning in public at a senior level. Senior level, I mean, when you have more experience. That's it. So I think that's what I am. That's where I'm pivoting to. Also,
Okay.
I had tweeted a lot of times about the cohort that I strongly believe that one should only learn from practitioners. Like teachers should be practitioners, and that this concept was not something which was novel in ancient eras as well. There is just this time where teachers are just teachers, right? And at
Okay.
every stage, at every point in time, teachers are always practitioners. So learn from me only if I am working in that field, or I am publishing, or I am contributing to decent open source project. Then that is a strong signal that I know what I'm talking about. I practice my craft, right?
Okay.
Else, I am just reading a book, and how I read about, how I took content from those two papers. I can take content from 10 papers and just tell you that this is what it is. So that's not what I want to do with myself. That is why I have changed my way. I'm not taking YouTube that seriously right now, because I just want to focus on some contributing on some good open source projects.
Awesome. I think this reminds me of one of the comments. I think you were reading this building GPUs, I guess, and you posted some of the chapter 3 is done or chapter 4 is
Yeah,
done.
chapter 3,
Someone,
yes.
so someone said like, "Are you summarizing it?" You said like,
Oh
"Okay,
yes.
probably I'm just learning it for the sake of learning. I didn't think
Yeah,
about that."
exactly. So I mean, this is unnecessary noise, right? What good it brought me when I posted that I did chapter 2. However, I can get more like significant better um, engagement, if you can say that, or attract better people if I say that, hey, this is the PR. In the GPU world, there are
Okay.
multiple things, open source projects in the GPU, and then I post that hey, I finished reading this book, I learned about GPUs, and here is the PR in this project. Now that will bring some good audience to talk to, and they won't all, and they were not wrong when they said summarize it for, because nobody has time to read the book, right? They wanted some output out of that. So yes, the output, rather than me just summarizing the chapters, which I don't think will make me happy, if I can post PRs from now that hey, this is the pull request in this GPU library, and I got there because I read this book. That is a much better signal as just doing this virtue signaling sort of thing that hey, I read this book. Okay.
Okay, cool. I think you mentioned in a conversation that you were starting to contribute or have been contributing to open source. So, and it has a big time that you have thinking to go deeper on some of
Yes.
the Apache projects, right? So, why don't you talk about that? And so, the cliche question goes like, how someone contributes to open source? Because the main challenge I feel that is existing right now is there's a bunch of entry level things. So, like
Mm.
open PRs, which are like entry level marked. So once you do that, there is a big wall that you need to shift to like contribute, because there is not enough data or architecture or contribution diagrams because people somehow lack it, or we are not meant of how the things are built.
Mm.
So why don't you talk about a little bit of the
Sure.
contributions and stuff?
So I am trying to contribute to DataFusion, which just became top level project in Apache world, and I have a PR open already, where Andy Grove, whom I admire a lot, he's a creator of DataFusion. He has given me a heart on the PR. That is a
Oh,
great thing for
awesome.
me. So, but yeah, the PR is yet to be merged. So how I got there? Firstly, you need to follow the creators of these tools. So I follow Andy Grove on Twitter. Now they always, because they after a while they become project managers in a way.
Right.
So he posted that hey, there's a new data fusion project, which is data fusion comet, which is a
Hmm.
Spark plugin which accelerates a lot of things for Spark. So he said that I'm working on this. It's a new project, and here are some good first issues which you can pick up, right? And he was also working on some of them. So mostly on every open source project, you will have that tag, good first issue. So
Yeah.
if you are serious about contributing, you should go there and you should find those issues, and uh, don't comment or do anything there on the issue. First, try to understand what the issue is. Try to clone the repo, run it, understand how the testing will happen. And once you are there at a stage where you know that, okay, now I kind of understand what this project is about. The project is, I can build the project on my local machine. I can do the testing. That's when you actually go and you pick up a issue which has a lot of clarity. So, for
Hmm.
example, I am right now trying to support string to it's a very like not a difficult task. It is string to timestamp conversion in a Spark compatible format in
Okay.
DataFusion. So this issue is easy to understand, right? What I am trying to do, that
Yeah.
okay, there is some data type which is timestamp, and if user writes a SQL query in string, I just have to convert it to the relevant timestamp. So I now understand the issue. Now the difficult thing is understanding that there are different data types in Spark, different data types in data fusion. How do you get compatibility across Spark? Has got a Scala thing,
Hmm.
and then this thing is in Rust. So how do you do that? So these are the additional complexity which comes with this ticket, and I really am enjoying working on them. So so you always pick up a issue which you can understand, so that you can make some progress, and then you can ask the maintainers again that, hey, this is the progress, this is the PR, review it. Can Are there any changes? Let me know. And if I'm stuck at some place, they can also probably help, because every good open source project has got a Slack or a Discord
Yeah.
um, server, where you can go and you can ask them that this is my PR, this is the progress which I have made, this is one thing where I'm stuck, can you help me out? So somebody will help you out in good faith. So that is how you do contributions, right? You don't go and pick up something which you don't understand at all, and then you pick up a ticket which you don't understand at all, or you start creating your own issues.
Yeah.
That is something um, which I don't think is the right way to do it. I also was able to contribute in PyTorch official tutorial repository,
Oh,
because I
great.
was actually following that repository, and I got a bug. So I went there and I made that change. But then you have to like prove that this is the bug, and this you have to explain your change as well. So try not to do readme changes. It adds no value to
And
your
with a
resume.
Hacktober t-shirt, probably.
Yes, maybe. But it adds no real value. And you need to contribute to open source with a goal. For example, contributing in, okay, I'm not going to take any names, but some company which is not hiring, for example, and you are desperately looking for a job, then you should not go and start contributing to that project, right? Because it won't have any value. There will be people who the PR approval process might take time,
Hmm.
so it takes a lot of time to
Yeah.
get your PR merged. A better way is just to apply at the companies and see. Once you are at a job and now you are thinking of a switch, or you found a problem which is really interest of yours, that time you find a open source project. Let's say you for example, work stealing is an algorithm which I talk about in the cohort. It is about how do you schedule tasks on a
Yeah.
processor. So at that time, there is a repository named Taskflow. Okay, so Taskflow is a unified repository where you can actually schedule tasks on CPU and GPU. So that
Okay.
is something which I'm really interested in exploring. So if I want to ever get into work scheduling and these kind of problems, that is the place where I will go first, and I will explore it. I will try to contribute it to a good issue, and
Hmm.
then maybe I'll find that, hey, which companies are actually using this repository. That information is also there. You can go in the used by, and you can see that. Or if you have done a significant contribution, you can create a you can do a post on Twitter, and somebody can retweet it, and you can find good jobs from that side. But I think that's the way. If you don't have a job and if you then start contributing, then it is a lot of pressure on yourself, because
Yeah.
you quickly want to get something out, and there are no I mean, there is no guarantee that that person will hire you.
Okay, I think that's a great overview on that. So, coming to all of these things, so how do you manage your time so that someone who is kind of like trying to learn, probably contribute to open source? It seems a lot of effort because you have
Yeah,
to
it is a
manage
lot of.
your company, you have to read research papers, you have to go through the documentations, install the specific tools in a machine, and then probably give it a shot. So,
Yes.
how do you manage your time in that sense?
So, yeah, so I'll be honest again. I am contributing to Data Fusion because I have taken a few months of break where I want to go full time, like work as a full time engineer for Data Fusion and similar projects. Because I right now I'm working on this issue, and I spent Saturday and Sunday both because I was trying to understand how to build this project. How so this project has got this is a Rust project which builds into Scala plugin,
Okay.
Spark plugin. So I wanted to understand how that flow works, things like that. So it requires a lot of time.
Yeah,
It's not a
exactly.
side project thing. So that is a primary reason why I thought I'll go full time. I will spend some months here and probably try to truly understand how and become an Apache project contributor, and then truly
Great.
understand how these things work. And if possible, get access. If you do some meaningful, good contribution, you can also get access to the maintainers like Andy Grove, and you can talk to them about something if you ever get stuck in your life. So that is what I'm trying to do, basically.
Oh, that's great, man. Like, yeah, I think again, as I talk about the pyramid, so once you go up the pyramid, you find a lot lesser people who have that kind of knowledge and they're ready to help, right? Because at the bottom, like everyone is like focusing on data structures, getting into interviews, but once you get into the company, I think that's when the real work starts. So I think, and I wish you very best on the journey. And I find you'll definitely make it because you have been doing this for some time. So I think you'll definitely make it. So okay, so coming to last part, so couple of suggestions. So what do you think someone should work for or strive for to become a better engineer in terms of distributed systems or performance or scalability, and then any other advices that you would want to give it in general?
So, at least for the senior folks who have, let's say, 2 3 years of experience, who are at a place where they understand the world, I would strongly suggest that you should try to pick up any formal method tool you like as soon as possible in your career, because it adds a lot of value. And everybody whom I know, who is a principal engineer, architect, software architect, things like that, they have the same regret that they should have learned formal methods early. So I definitely think that if you are aspiring for that, that you want to become a principal engineer, designer of algorithms, things like that,
Hmm.
then you should have formal methods, any formal methods in your belt. And I mean, just understanding, not expert in anything, but at least you can understand the spec. Um, you can be comfortable with it if given some basic work. So that can be one thing. Another thing is reading good classical books or blog posts as well, because older blog posts were really nice. So read classics are classics for a reason, and we should definitely keep visiting that. For example, um, I don't have any book right now because everything is in the bookshelf, but there are some good books, right, which everybody recommends. So read dense books. uh, don't chase any metric, so 52 books a year or things like that. Read one book which takes a year, and that will add a lot of value to your career. And yes, what else? I mean, I think the only other thing which I did was I was always trying to punch up, take more difficult jobs as compared. So everybody has a understanding of their own skill, right?
Yeah.
Still you try to take up something which you know is difficult than what you already know. I think that can lead to two things. You can either, you know get to a point where the company says, hey, this is not working, and that is fine in your initial career. Or you can strive through the problem and you learn that thing.
Yeah.
This is what I did when I was in Macrometa. I joined as a Python engineer, and then my CTO was kind enough to allow me to work on database stuff as well, which was
Nice.
C++ and the database world. But yeah, it was very, very. stressful time for me because I was not that great in C++, no idea about databases. So I had to learn about databases, do the work, and it was a consensus-free geo-replicated database, which means
Oh, okay.
we were using some variant of CRDT and something. So that is another thing which I got an opportunity to learn. So it's just that it's okay if you cannot do well. There is we all are here to just learn more, right? And if you learn more, you'll obviously make more money eventually.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's a great introduction. So focusing on just learning and not focusing on any metrics right from the beginning that I need to hit this
Yes.
target will make your journey much more empowering, I would say, right? So yeah, with that, I think that brings an end to this conversation. I'll attach all of the things that people said in the description. Probably the most important one is reading the how to read a research paper. The article is pretty interesting. I will definitely go through it, and I'll attach some documents and works that people has been doing over these years. So I wish you all the best and thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks a
So
lot for this. Really
yeah,
enjoyed.
we'll connect again once you have your PR merged, and
Sure.
hopefully you'll get some more stars in your repo. I think you have decent amount of stars in your repos as of now. I think
Yeah,
10 plus, right?
possibly. Yeah, yeah,
So I think you'll definitely fetch more. So I wish you the best, and hopefully we'll connect again.
sure. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, man.